In the golden haze of Alexandria's dawn, Cleopatra emerged, a queen born into shadows and secrets. Her first cries echoed in a land where rivalries ran as deep as the Nile. Guided by tales whispered between marble columns, and under the ever-watchful eyes of the great library, her life was stitched together by the threads of power and prophecy. She walked through a world where the gleam of silk masked the grit of survival, and where every gaze might conceal a dagger's intent. Cleopatra's Egypt was a realm caught in a tempest of intrigue, beauty, and ruin, ready to unveil its story. Let us embark on a journey through the sands of ancient Egypt to a time when history interwove with myth. Here, amid the enigmatic allure of Alexandria, Cleopatra's legend begins to take form. Born in 69 BCE into the illustrious Ptolemaic dynasty, her cradle was surrounded not by the lullabies of common life, but by the resonant echoes of a storied empire. This wasn't mere happenstance. Her lineage was thick with ambition and intellect, her destiny inscribed as if by the hand of gods. The bustling streets of Alexandria cradled Cleopatra's early days, a city that pulsed as the Mediterranean's intellectual and cultural heart. Founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, Alexandria was a cultural melting pot where the aromas of exotic spices and vibrant threads of silk intertwined with an intellectual fervour unparalleled in history. Its marketplaces were alive with sound, a human symphony of hawkers, and philosophers exchanging wares and ideas, crafting a thriving societal tableau, rich with thought and trade. At its core stood the Great Library, a beacon of enlightenment that gathered scholars from across the world. In this city of contrasts, Cleopatra was educated among the scrolls and ancient tomes of the library, absorbing a treasure trove of wisdom from a world rapidly changing. Here, her inherent curiosity was nurtured alongside her burgeoning political acumen, indulging in the intricate dance of knowledge and power that would later define her reign. For beneath its storied ceilings, Cleopatra's intellectual arsenal was forged, one that would later equip her against the menacing spectre of Roman imperialism. Within her veins coursed the potent blood of the Ptolemies, a dynasty that wielded Egypt with all the grace and guile of seasoned rulers. The Ptolemaic lineage, forged from the chaos of Alexander's conquests, was fraught with as much peril as privilege. Cleopatra's upbringing in such turbulent currents taught her the nuances of diplomacy and the wisdom woven into survival. Her formative years were steeped in this tapestry of triumphs and tragedies, preparing her for a path marked by both dazzling brilliance and daunting complexity. Embedded within the fabric of her early life was a blend of Egyptian and Greek influences, mirroring Alexandria's role as a crucible of cultural fusion. Cleopatra embodied this duality with a deft hand. She was a Greek aristocrat in demeanour, yet her spirit resonated with the divine legacy of Egyptian pharaohs. This harmonious integration became the lifeline of her rule, ensuring loyalty across her diverse realm. As she grew, Cleopatra presented herself as a living devotee of both cultures, her governance illustrating an exquisite balance of differing traditions and beliefs. The royal palace, though magnificent, was a cauldron of ambition and rivalry, casting long shadows over Cleopatra's youth. Here, the Ptolemaic family's pursuit of power often led to scalding tensions and tragic turns. In this arena of high stakes and higher stakes, Cleopatra evolved into a figure of considerable strength and resilience. Her acumen thrived amid such challenges, forever attuned to the calculus of influence, deft in navigating the labyrinth of her dynasty's intrigues. Destiny perpetually shadowed Cleopatra, whispering through the corridors of her early life where omens and prophecies mingled with the affections of gods. Her upbringing was steeped in the spiritual narratives and mysticism of ancient Egypt, rituals pervading every aspect of her existence. From the incense-laden air of temples to the sacred rhythm of ceremonies that connected divine and mortal realms, she internalized these spectral aspects of power, enriching the sovereign she would become. This mystical schooling didn't exist in isolation. Rituals were essential not just for seduction or spectacle, but acted as vital threads that linked her to Egypt's divine heritage. Cleopatra took part in these ceremonies not merely as a matter of inheritance, but as a means of ardent devotion, viewing them as a passage to the spiritual and terrestrial realm she was destined to rule. In these formative years lay the foundations of a monarch whose life would resonate long after her passing. Much like the tranquil, yet irresistible flow of the Nile, Cleopatra's early life held the promise of greatness. As dawn broke over Egypt, she emerged as both the subject and sovereign of an empire, her future replete with trials and triumphs. Her story, a blend of compelling intrigue and unconquerable will, stands as a testament to the timeless dance of destiny and audacity, a genesis that would carve her name eternally into the annals of history. In the heart of Alexandria, the Ptolemaic court glittered with splendour and cunning, a paradox of opulence shrouded in whispers of betrayal. Here, where intellect met treachery, marble halls echoed with the silent tales of power struggles etched in frescoes of Egyptian gods. Beneath the glare of the midday sun, shadows loomed over those who skulked in the court's corners, where even blood ties paled before the throne's seductive and perilous grip. To the outside world, this was a citadel of governance. Within it was an arena of ever-teetering chaos. Appian captures the tension, likening the court to a serpent, coiled and ready to strike at friend and foe alike. Diplomats and scholars donned paranoia like armour, knowing their survival balanced precariously on courtly favour, as fragile as a spider's web. Here, alliances crumbled over a cup of wine, words cut sharper than swords, sealing fates in unmarked graves beneath resplendent tiles. Rumours of deadly poisons crept through the Ptolemaic air, poisons capable of slipping unnoticed into chalices, leaving only whispers and a trace of death. The court's lords were artists in the clandestine science of toxicology, a shadowy ballet performed beneath the serene facade of royal life. Appian weaves tales of these toxic plots, where poison was not just a weapon, but an art form, wielded by desperate rulers and cunning usurpers alike. The Temple of Horus at Edfu bears silent witness to these lethal intrigues. Its hieroglyphs, rich with cryptic symbols, recount tales where venomous plots were rites of passage, assassinations whispered from stone to stone, like serpents in waiting. Here in this shadowy world, death was refined to an artful dance, a meticulous orchestration that struck unseen, its venom subtler than a viper in the shadows. Hieroglyphics carved into Egypt's timeless temples blend the celestial and mortal, divine and deceitful. In the Temple of Horus, priests chiselled tales of both reverence and treachery, capturing the Ptolemaic age's whispers within their hands' stone carvings. Modern scholars decipher these layered meanings, unravelling a narrative steeped in symbolism. The temple's walls tell more than religious devotion. They unfold a cautionary tale of human ambition, always under divine pretense, casting a fragile, turbulent light over the court. Amidst this intrigue, Cleopatra's court swayed to a dance of survival. a complex ballet of deference and defiance played within closed doors. Rituals rich in symbolism fortified alliances, appeased rivals, and subtly reinforced the hierarchies that governed the queen's entourage. Detailed accounts by Appian illustrate how these were not mere formalities, but intricate manoeuvres in a grander scheme, moments of antiquity echoing through the minds of those who survived its threats. The tale of the Ptolemaic dynasty is marred by scandalous audacities, as venomous as the serpents adorning their crowns. The empire's annals, chained by fragile alliances and familial discord, are rife with whispered rivalries and untamed romances that shadowed Cleopatra's reign. Appian paints these tales like a novelist, capturing the human flaws and ambitions that often overshadowed bonds of loyalty and kinship. Love affairs became tragic dramas in the quest for ascendancy, testing the very foundations of Cleopatra's rule. Yet these stories also reveal her as a masterful tactician in political warfare, turning scandal's tumult into opportunities for resilience and shrewdness. The air, thick with betrayal, bore sometimes a scent of frankincense, a reminder of power's ephemeral nature in a court driven by desire and ambition. Cleopatra's court owed much to superstition, where the oracles shaped decisions that danced between politics and divine sanction. These rituals wove prophecy into the governance fabric, creating decisions cloaked in predestined legitimacy. Mysticism mingled with ambition, as Cleopatra extended her influence through spiritual patronage, accentuating temporal power. Her reliance on oracles lent her rule an aura of divine mystery, as oracular predictions shifted courtly debates and transformed adversaries into allies, or pawns, manipulated by fate's unseen hand. Political murders within the Ptolemaic dynasty's marble halls were acknowledged acts of equilibrium, used to redress lines of power and quash rivalries. Chronicles recount these murders with unsettling precision, portraying them as stark instruments of statecraft amid the court's paranoid shroud. Rank offered no safety as political murder, though dreaded was often a necessary evil to secure dominion. Assassinations resonated with a tragic cadence of inevitability, ever present in Cleopatra's reign, interweaving her legacy with a shadowed dance of power and death. Women in the Ptolemaic court were not mere adornments, but players wielding influence. Cleopatra is rightly celebrated for her authority, yet her rise was but one chapter in a lineage where women manoeuvred dynastic evolutions. From queens to spies, women's roles bled into espionage and intrigue. They navigated the patriarchal maze, claiming agency over political machinations in narratives enriched by ancient texts and inscriptions, reshaping leadership beyond masculine dominion. Cleopatra's alliances straddled love and political pragmatism, balancing trust and betrayal. Mark Antony was more than a lover, he was a strategic move in a broader chess game. Their union, sentiment laced with strategy, underscored Cleopatra's rule, a complex dance between allegiance, passion, and sovereignty. Yet love could yield treachery, lurking in intimate embraces. Chroniclers recalibrate Cleopatra's liaisons, sketching a ruler who grasped that the heart's capacity for loyalty and betrayal was central to political strategy in her turbulent realm. In Cleopatra's court, identity danced between masks and bare faces, with courtiers projecting power and ambition, disguising truths beneath crafted exteriors. Hieroglyphs and frescoes depict these masks, a fluid interplay of identity and politics, painted with elaborate jewellery and expressions of imperial loyalty. Yet beneath these adorned faces, the raw essence of fragmented identities and hidden agendas swirled, embodying the complex theatre of governance. From regal shadows emerged kaleidoscopic personas, whose stories remain etched within history's sands, whispering tales of ambition and intrigue. In ancient Alexandria, where the sun-kissed cityscape met the Mediterranean, grandeur and squalor existed side by side. This metropolis, the crown jewel of the Ptolemaic kingdom, dazzled visitors with its towering Pharos lighthouse and the illustrious library, bastions of learning in a world yet to comprehend their scale. Palatial homes adorned with marble and golden mosaics contrasted sharply with the tangled alleys that housed the bulk of its citizens. The air was thick with the fragrance of exotic spices. Whispers of silken fabrics fluttered from far-off lands, weaving the city into a vibrant tapestry of culture and commerce. Yet, beneath this sheen, stark inequities festered. For every glittering facade, there lurked neighbourhoods teetering on the edge of poverty, sustained only at the whims of an elite few. While the grandeur of royal dwellings spoke of unimaginable wealth, the lives of ordinary Alexandrians were grounded in gritty realities. The cramped quarters they called home, often mere mud structures vulnerable to the whims of nature, stood in stark contrast to the opulence of the ruling class. Life for most was a relentless cycle of toil, from fishermen enduring long days by the Nile to craftspeople in dimly lit workshops. Yet, amid hardship, life flourished with colour and vibrancy. Markets buzzed with activity, the simple joy of communal gatherings, through festivals and shared routines, offering respite from daily burdens. Here the aroma of fresh bread mingled with the clamour of barter and trade, binding communities together in resilience. Within the resplendent confines of the Ptolemaic courts, luxury was more than mere decoration. It was a calculated projection of power. Cleopatra herself wielded opulence as a political tool, her court a spectacle of calculated grandeur. Here wealth draped itself in gold and precious stones, each banquet more opulent than the last, replete with delicacies like wild game and wine sourced from the empire's farthest corners. Such splendour, however, masked frailties within the kingdom's foundation, an unstable empire, beset by internal rifts and external threats. The spectacle was a show of strength to both internal subject and external foes like the looming Roman Republic. Yet behind these dazzling displays lay the kingdom's financial precariousness. Daily life for the common Egyptian was marked by the harsh grind of survival, far removed from the royal splendour. Farmers under the punishing sun extracted sustenance from the fertile Nile, the backbone of their world and yet also their burden, given to unpredictable floods and stringent tax systems. For craftsmen and labourers, life was a ceaseless cycle of work under the watchful eye of their supervisors. Despite such conditions, traditions thrived. Festivities tied to the agricultural calendar wove music and dance into the rhythm of life, infusing it with shared hope and unity. In this shared struggle, a cultural tapestry was spun, resilient and rich with stories passed through generations. Housing highlighted the gulf between privilege and poverty. For the elite, homes of marble and stone promised serenity, embellished with gardens and frescoed interiors. Servants bustled about, invisible oil to their masters' daily routines. But in the narrow streets beyond, mud-bricked dwellings offered scant protection from the elements to those who toiled endlessly within their confines. Despite their meagre means, community ties thrived, neighbours turning narrow spaces into vibrant webs of shared stories and hardships. Marketplaces and temples acted as societal junctions, where disparities blurred. Vendors spilled into bustling streets, mingling the rich with the poor under a single sun. Here, the harmony of commerce united classes as bartering sounds mixed with street performers' tunes. Temples, too, offered communal solace. These spaces, both sacred and social, sheltered petitioners from all backgrounds. Pilgrims sought divine favour beside statues of deities, and festivals merged every strata in common reverence. Such places epitomised Alexandria's societal complexities, weaving together threads of diversity despite the stark divides. Hygienic practices laid bare these inequalities further. For the privileged, daily rituals included bathhouses and perfume luxuries, cleanliness a mark of societal stature. Meanwhile, the masses contended with crowded public baths and relied on generational wisdom for maladies, merging superstition with herbal remedies. Yet, amid these challenges, community caretaking evidenced a relentless human spirit. Clothing mirrored these divides. The affluent draped themselves in vivid, woven textiles, jewels accentuating their status. Cleopatra's regality shone through her attire, each piece echoing divine lineage. Conversely, pragmatism defined the garb of the commoners, muted hues reflecting economic realities, as resilience blossomed in local patterns and traditional designs. Even diets reflected class chasms. For elites, meals were decadent spectacles. An array of meats, imported fruits, and flowing wines designed to impress. For the majority, sustenance was found in humble bread and beer, the spectre of hunger always near. Yet meals remained a source of familial unity, a thread linking diverse societal experiences. In Alexandria, entertainment united and divided, as theatres for the elite staged tales against political backdrops, while the streets hummed with simple pleasures. Storytellers, acrobats, and musicians engaging all. Shared festivals turned stark streets into stages of cultural celebration, blurring societal lines. Hence, beneath Alexandria's dazzling layer, lay a world tumultuous with vibrant humanity, its stories woven into the grand, gritty tapestry of Ptolemaic Egypt. In the enigmatic world of ancient Egypt, where the mortal and the divine danced an eternal waltz, Cleopatra reigned with a profound understanding of the sacred rituals that wove through everyday life. In a society where superstition infused even the simplest acts, grooming and bathing took on a divine sheen. Cleopatra, the charismatic ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom, embraced these rituals not merely as habits, but as both spiritual and political acts. Herodotus, in his Histories, emphasises the Egyptian obsession with purity, detailing their ritualistic washing in the sacred Nile. Cleanliness transcended the physical realm, striving instead for spiritual sanctity. Cleopatra, seen as the living embodiment of Isis, followed these practices ardently, merging her earthly beauty with divine presence. The ritual use of cosmetics was another facet of this sacred daily life. Cleopatra's application of kohl went beyond aesthetic allure, intertwining beauty with divine protection. This dark pigment, made from ground minerals, not only shielded her eyes from the sun's harsh glare, but also invoked the falcon-headed god Horus, safeguarding her against malevolent forces. The Eye of Horus, depicted on numerous tombs, symbolises protection, health and power, attributes Cleopatra embodied. Her carefully crafted appearance represented more than elegance. It was a declaration of her divine right to rule, each brushstroke a silent invocations inscribed in ancient scriptures. Perfume in Cleopatra's world was alive with divine communication. It sent a tangible link to the gods. Perfume making was an art, each blend of myrrh, frankincense, and exotic spices a testament to religious devotion. These fragrances transcended simple pleasantness. They were offerings, purifying spaces, drawing gods like Thoth into the smoky embrace of incense-laden altars. Cleopatra's fabled baths, infused with rose petals and honey, mirrored mythologies, drawing inspiration from the milk of Hathor, the goddess of motherhood. This ritual was more than opulence. It was an expression of divine nourishment, her fiery rain inscribed in scents wafting through her court. Hair too was imbued with sacred symbolism, each style a message to the divine. Egyptian priests shaved their heads in a gesture of humility, a practice Cleopatra adapted with graceful sophistication. Her hairstyles, whether decadent braids or gracefully adorned with serpent diadems, were more than mere decorations. They connected her with deities like Hathor and Isis, visually proclaiming her royal and divine connections. The intricate art of wig making was yet another Egyptian innovation, transforming human and animal hair into symbols of eternal life. Crafted with aromatic resins, these wigs became a beacon of immortal aspirations, aligning mortal ambition with celestial grace. Dance enveloped Cleopatra's court in spiritual vibrancy, transforming the opulent halls into sacred altars of movement. Each step and gesture mirrored celestial narratives carved on temple walls, stories of divine love and epic battles playing out in elaborate choreography. Dancers, guided by the goddess Hathor's spirit, captivated with each movement, turning performances into living myths. In this cosmic ballet, Cleopatra bore witness to divine mimicry, where song and dance spiraled into rituals of devotion, harmonizing the mortal and the divine in a melodious embrace. Haircuts held their own enigmatic power, seen not as mere vanity but spiritual safeguarding. Priests meticulously shaved their heads to prevent spirits from latching onto strands, each cut a defense against ominous influences. Cleopatra wielded her hairstyle with strategy, signaling divine favor or political cunning through every serpentine curl. In her hands, hair was less fashion than fable. Her coiffure not just a crown but an emblem of celestial kinship, reaffirming her sovereignty over both Egypt's land and divine wisdom. Cosmetics intertwined with medicine in Cleopatra's manifold trickery. The rich palette drawn from vibrant malachite greens and ominous galena blacks was more than aesthetic. It was a therapeutic application. Each colour was a spell against ailments, green embodying rebirth, black commanding the underworld's protection. Cleopatra's allure extended beyond beauty, mingling statecraft with seduction. Her laboratories, teeming with rare perfumes and pigments, cast a sensory net over allies and adversaries alike. Her visage enticing yet shielded, captivating those who dared to encounter her layered charm. Medicine and mysticism braided into everyday rituals, crafting treatments believed to heal wounds and repel snake bites. The Egyptians blended herbs, ochres, and animal derivatives, merging divine intervention with practical cures. Cleopatra embraced these remedies, sustaining an image of untouchable vitality, her court an epicenter of innovation, where medicine inspired reverence. With every ritual act of beauty, Cleopatra hovered between queen and healer, an enigmatic figure, enchanting and eternal, maintained through sacred art and ancient wisdom. Under Cleopatra's reign, personal hygiene became an intimate ceremony of cosmic alignment. Ritual cleanliness extended beyond simple sanitation, interpreted as spiritual symphony, harmonious with Egypt's divine order. Her baths, flavoured with amber and cedar, spoke of sanctified nobility, an indulgence in self-worship that transcended the secular. Alexandria's fragrant waters echoed with her presence, the air alive with myth and piety. Cleopatra, a radiant embodiment of divine purpose. Bath habits immortalised, her aura perfumed with celestial allure. The mystique of language embraced Cleopatra, its power embedded in Egypt's narrative traditions. Incantations, both spoken and inscribed, delivered divine guidance, shaping destinies through rhythm and repetition. Cleopatra's linguistic prowess surfaced both politically and spiritually. Her spoken rites a bridge to Roman and Egyptian audiences. Words ripple with sacred cadence, echoing divine resonance throughout her court. The queen employed this verbal artistry deftly, each phrase resonating with strategic and divine undertones. A guardian of ancient belief, radiating through time with legacy's echoing voice. In Cleopatra, beauty was more than flesh deep. It was a sacred legacy, a divine tapestry woven into history's ages-old narrative. In the sun-baked land of Egypt, a formidable dynasty was brewing with discord as its main staple. The Ptolemaic dynasty, lush with opulence yet riddled with cracks of jealousy, stood at the edge of chaos. Ptolemy XII, pharaoh of Egypt, left behind a legacy draped in riches and familial strife. His children Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII were thrust into this cauldron of power, a chessboard where they each played for the throne. Here, familial bonds were as fragile as papyrus scrolls, waiting to unravel under the weight of ambition. Born into customs where sibling marriage was tradition, Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII were wedded, a strategic pairing meant to cement their joint rule. Yet, the union was anything but harmonious. Instead, it ignited a fierce rivalry, a lethal dance between thirst for sovereignty and survival. Hieroglyphs whisper tales of betrayals and alliances forged in shadowed chambers, unseen by public eyes but felt throughout the realm. Cleopatra emerged in this storm of ambition, not merely as a contender, but as a master strategist. To claim the throne, she realised she required more than rivalries. She needed to harness the ancient land's lifeblood and the politics of lands beyond the horizon. Fluent in the languages of her realm and those beyond, Cleopatra won the trust of native Egyptians, who saw in her the promise of unity. Her allure and intellect became key weapons, drawing powerful Roman allies into her fold and piecing together a formidable web of support. Ptolemy XIII, though young, was not idle. Around him, advisors, eager for a bite of power, pulled cords that turned him into the face of a counter-struggle. They set the stage for a propaganda war, portraying Cleopatra as the usurper while elevating Ptolemy's youthful divinity. The palace was both a playground and a battlefield drenched in rituals and parades designed to underscore his legitimacy. Yet his power was a delicate thread subject to Cleopatra's every move. As the siblings' rivalry crescendoed, it spilled into open conflict, boiling over into the grand spectacle known as the Battle of the Nile. This was no mere battle of arms, but a battle of wills and wits. Cleopatra manoeuvred with the support of Roman titans like Julius Caesar, her forces carving a path across the fabled river. The Nile, with its ancient echoes, bore witness to a struggle of ambition and survival. The clash of swords and cries of warriors rent the air, an orchestral chaos writ in steel and strategy. Cleopatra's victory was not only a personal triumph, but a reshaping of Egypt's destiny. Her brother's quashed resistance marked a turning point, a historical inflection rooting Cleopatra in power. It was amid velvet nights of political intrigue that Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar deepened. Their story, a potent blend of history and romance, danced on the edges of myth. Caesar's presence fortified Cleopatra's claim, a double-edged sword of affirmation and dependency. While solidifying her authority within Egypt's borders, this alliance cast a looming shadow over her reign, shaping Cleopatra's image across Rome's cobblestoned streets. In the aftermath, Ptolemy XIII vanished into exile, a fallen pawn in the dynastic game, his fate sealed as though by divine decree. The mythology crafted around his ouster wove tales of celestial justice, a narrative that Cleopatra wielded to affirm her divinely ordained sovereignty. Exile dimmed Ptolemy's star, yet he lingered as a cautionary spectre, a lesson in the unforgiving calculus of power. The Nile's gentle murmur continued, its waters carrying omens along with silt and whispers of fate. Soothsayers and courtiers scrutinized its rise and fall, seeking in its depth the balance of power. Through symbols and omens, Cleopatra wove her reign with the seamless thread of myth and reality, mastering the art of blending the divine with the mundane. Within the royal palace, intrigue simmered beneath a polished veneer. It was an abode of whispers and hidden machinations, where alliances were as fluid as the nearby river. Cleopatra navigated these rapids of deceit, her acumen a guiding star through the murky corridors of power. Rising above the din of defeat, Cleopatra shaped her legacy into an enduring myth, a narrative of intelligence and allure transcending her time. Her mastery in statecraft, combined with her charisma, forged a legend that would outlast mortals and kings. Cleopatra, both queen and icon, left her mark on obelisks and memory alike, a steadfast figure in the passing sands of time. These obelisks, etched with Cleopatra's victories, stand as silent narrators to generations past and present, marking the saga of power, the divine touch believed to guide her hand, and the poetic justice echoing through the Ptolemaic interweave. Her triumph over sibling rivalry tells not only of historical destiny, but of myths binding humankind to the ancient land, stories of ambition, divine favour, and the ceaseless tide of history. Cleopatra's encounter with Mark Antony is woven into the fabric of history as both a romantic escapade and a monumental political strategy. The mesmerising tale, meticulously chronicled by Plutarch, was set against a backdrop of grandeur and cunning. Cleopatra, aware of Antony's penchant for luxury, spared no effort in orchestrating her entrance, a spectacle of opulence with her arrival on a golden barge, evoking the goddess Aphrodite herself. As incense perfumed the air and lyres filled it with melody, Cleopatra captured Antony's attention, not merely as a lover, but as a sovereign orchestrating an alliance. Their meeting symbolised Cleopatra's strategic brilliance, her keen sense of diplomacy entwining with seduction. It was a pact crafted from mutual ambition. Cleopatra secured her throne while Antony gained leverage over Roman opposition. They emerged from their initial encounter bound by a shared vision against their adversaries. Cleopatra embodied not just a monarch seeking Roman favour, but a formidable player in the game of empires, transforming her destiny with charm and intellect. Delving beyond romance, Cleopatra and Antony's relationship was steeped in tactical brilliance. This was a partnership where affection intertwined seamlessly with political aspiration. To Cleopatra, Antony represented a bulwark crucial to her reign amidst threats and upheaval. For Antony, Cleopatra was more than a queen. She was a powerful ally offering resources and intellect to bolster his Eastern Mediterranean ambitions. Their relationship flourished as a blend of affection and pragmatism, each finding in the other a means to fulfill greater aspirations. The correspondence, as noted by Cicero, illustrates their candid dynamic, blending warmth with political reality. Cleopatra's endeavours were consistently oriented towards fortifying her domain, projecting herself as a divinely endowed authority. Antony's writings reveal his awareness of her agenda, not as a mere lover, but a powerful partner. Under Cleopatra's influence, Antony's lifestyle shifted, demonstrating the potent mix of allure and imperial aspiration. In Alexandria, Cleopatra and Antony built a world of lavish opulence, a theatre for their ambitions and political machinations. The city's grandeur provided the canvas upon which they painted their dreams of power. Alexandria was not just a refuge, but a stage for strategy, where Cleopatra's opulence and political cunning harmonised. Within these grand walls, they engaged in strategy, using celebration as a subtext for discourse and negotiation, an intoxicating blend of pleasure and power. Their union was a cultural confluence, a bridge between the vast legacies of Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra, of Greek heritage yet devoutly Egyptian, embraced a fusion of traditions, embodying a bridge between two civilizations. Her alliance with Antony was not only personal but a grand socio-political amalgam, uniting vast cultural doctrines. Through their time together, Cleopatra and Antony celebrated both traditions, the relationship standing as a testament to their bond and mutual goals. As part of the Roman triumvirate, Antony recognised Cleopatra's substantial influence. Their bond was personal joy intertwined with strategic purpose, a pact that rose above the personal to heighten imperial objectives. Cleopatra's alliance with Antony served as a protective shield, extending her reach over former Alexander empires. In Cleopatra's lavish realm, he found a sovereignty away from Rome's watchful eyes, an engaging dance of affection with imperial vision. Yet, as Antony's immersion in Egypt deepened, so too did Roman discontent. To Rome, his forays into what was perceived as Eastern decadence marked a diversion from Roman ideals. Whispers turned to concern, and Cleopatra emerged in the Roman narrative as a dangerously influential presence. Unfazed, the duo stood firm against the rumblings from Rome, marking a defiance that questioned traditional Roman ethos and championed Hellenistic Egyptian vibrancy against conservative values. Their union bore children who symbolise future dynastic aspirations. Extensively documented, Cleopatra's progeny became instruments of diplomatic strategy. Cleopatra raised them amidst the melding of Egyptian and Roman influences, preparing them for the volatile stage of power. Her vision for her children was not solely heritage, but a strategic bridge, a foresight into mending or mastering the Mediterranean's geopolitical fractures. The alliance, however, faced pressures from Rome as Octavian's influence grew. Hostilities amplified, transforming intimate exchanges into public displays of treason. Under mounting pressure, Cleopatra manoeuvred to safeguard her realm, illustrating sovereignty amid Antony's waning favour. The once harmonious relationship evolved into a cautious dance of loyalty amidst growing betrayal, with Cleopatra defending her abode against Roman encroachments by fusing old affection with strategic foresight. The Battle of Actium marked a decisive juncture, dismantling their aspirations under Octavian's ascendant power. For Cleopatra, this signified both personal and national defeat, a reshaping of Egypt's role in an altered landscape. Despite Actium's blow, Cleopatra's resolve remained, with focus shifting to survival amid new hierarchies. Antony's downfall marked the collapse of dreams, redefining ambitions into a stark realisation of personal grandeur against grounded reality, leaving Cleopatra to navigate the political ruins with remaining resolve. In her final days, Cleopatra chose defiance over submission to Rome, her end infusing the historical tapestry with myth and autonomy. Her narrative persisted, a kaleidoscope of brilliance and fallibility, transcending eras as a portrait of feminine prowess, strategic legend, and dynastic intrigue. Cleopatra's legacy, shaped by her decisive end, left an enduring mark, inviting interpretation and fascination for generations, questing to understand the intricate dance of ambition and allure within the sweeping tides of history. In the grand tableau of Cleopatra's Egypt, grain was not merely sustenance, but a pivotal instrument of power. Alexandria glittered like a prized jewel and served as the empire's granary, its economy seamlessly interwoven with the ebb and flow of its wheat stocks. The meticulously kept papyrus scrolls reveal stories of grain quotas and the relentless struggle to balance public needs with political machinations. Cleopatra understood that beneath the veneer of control, the spectre of starvation lurked, waiting to slip through the empire's cracks. Rome's unquenchable demand for Egyptian grain weighed heavily on Cleopatra's reign. The grim humour in Martial's epigrams offers a glimpse into the empire's dependency on Egypt, underscoring the tightrope Cleopatra walked with every shipment. For her, this was not only about feeding Rome's insatiable appetite, but also about maintaining political favour. Grain was her currency and her shield, its scarcity as effective as any military might. The agricultural might of Egypt was a product of the Nile's bounty, which annually turned the fertile valley into a breadbasket. Yet, beneath this prosperity lay a system as intricate as it was fragile. Ptolemaic Egypt's agriculture depended on the orchestrated dance of flooding cycles and manual toil. The fields, fed by the river's lifeblood, were both an economic engine and a political weapon, where success and failure were often at the whim of nature's caprices. But what truly set Ptolemaic agriculture apart was its blend of pharaonic traditions and Hellenistic innovations. The rites of planting and harvesting were deeply rooted in superstition, each ritual an entreaty to the gods for bounty. As much as the harvest itself, these rituals defined the Egyptian identity and infused the very soil with sacred significance, weaving an invisible thread between the monarch and the common labourer. In the realm of political stratagem, Cleopatra's mastery of grain diplomacy is evidenced in papyrus fragments detailing her adept use of Egypt's granaries as chess pieces within wider imperial games. Her manoeuvring ensured Rome's appeasement with generous shipments in times of famine, but this delicate dance was fraught with Shakespearean irony. The alliances she forged through bread could crumble as swiftly as the grain poured from her ships, illustrating the fickle nature of imperial gratitude. Yet within the bustling streets of Alexandria, tension simmered beneath the surface. Bread was more than a staple, it was the measure of civil peace. When it fell scarce, rebellions sparked like tinder in a drought. Graffiti and martial inscriptions capture the grit of public unrest, as hunger turned alleys into crucibles of dissent. Cleopatra's genius policy-making could not always contain the discontent that brewed when privilege soared above straining stomachs. Within this intricate economic web, Alexandria was more than a city. It was a crossroads of commerce and a fragile heartstring of empire. Grain was a keystone, stabilising and endangering Cleopatra's reign in equal measure. Beneath the luxurious facade, corruption and competition gnawed at its core, with whispered tales of manipulated scales and silent exchanges, painting a picture of commerce tinged with intrigue. As Cleopatra navigated these murky waters, her era's economy thrived on a delicate balance between abundance and deficit. Yet this balance was easily undermined by the winds of unpredictability, corruption, fickle alliances, and natural disasters. The farmers, resilient yet bound to the whims of dynasty, faced a fate as changeable as the Nile's waters. In Egypt, superstition permeated the very soil, tying each stalk of grain to divine benefaction. Rituals passed down through generations dictated planting and harvest cycles, instilling in every worker an unwavering reverence for the divine continuum. Temples and scrolls tell of priests conducting sacred ceremonies, punctuated by sacrifice and celestial homage, striving to appease the gods for a fruitful yield. Yet even with divine favour, the agrarian paradise Cleopatra strove to maintain was crumbling. Within the failing infrastructure and the declining fields lay the undercurrents of an empire on the brink. While outer forces pressured, it was the rot within that rendered her domain fragile. Grand outlays of abundance masked the inner decay, leaving a legacy of opulence entangled with the whispers of famine and economic decline. Cleopatra's story, captured in the shifting sands of history, rests intertwined with the grain that sustained her nation. Though her fame spans the ages as a beacon of allure and authority, it is this precarious relationship between abundance and need that etches itself into historical consciousness. Unravelling these narratives, historians find not only the grandeur of her reign, but the stark reminder of ancient truths, luxury and need, forever wedded in the slender stalks of wheat. Thus, Cleopatra's legacy remains enshrined not only in grandiose affairs of state, but in the grain that defined her empire's fate. As historians sift through the ages, seeking understanding within stones and script, they find Cleopatra, a monarch bound to the rhythms of the earth she ruled. Her fate, eternally linked to the harvest, offers a message of resilience through history's endless cycles, an echo amid the remains of her ancient world. In the intricate dance of power that was Cleopatra's reign, the Egyptian queen wielded spectacle as a weapon. Josephus describes her triumphal entries into cities not simply as displays of grandeur, but as orchestrated performances, merging Egyptian symbolism with the might of Rome. These processions overflowed with soldiers in glittering armour, camels bearing silken litters, and exotic animals parading as symbols of her reign over the world's wonders. Such grandiosity was not mere vanity. Each element served the political purpose of solidifying Cleopatra's image as a divinely backed ruler in the eyes of her subjects and her Roman counterparts. By entwining political strategy with cultural displays, Cleopatra shored up her rule amid whispers from domestic adversaries and the looming shadow of Roman power. Theatrics alone, however, were insufficient to maintain alliances. Cleopatra's gifts, as captured in Josephus's chronicles, extended beyond sheer opulence. Lavish offerings from gold-threaded linens to African gems were diplomatic anchors, binding her allies and taming potential threats within a subtle web of indebtedness. When Antony received a flotilla brimming with treasures, it was Cleopatra's assurance that loyalty would transcend romance and intertwine with politics, cementing his support. Cleopatra's charm was not confined to material gifts. Her rhetorical skill, deeply rooted in her multilingual fluency and intellectual prowess, allowed her direct engagement with foreign dignitaries. This personal communication fostered an atmosphere of respect and trust, enhancing her stature in negotiations. Accounts describe her speeches as rich with classical allusions and philosophical resonance, appealing to both the educated and the common, and painting her as a divinely sanctioned guide through turbulent times. However, her real mastery lay in weaving religious imagery into her rule. Cleopatra fashioned herself as the living embodiment of Isis, co-opting the goddess's divine allure to bolster her legitimacy. This not only resonated with her Egyptian subjects, but intrigued the Romans, whose society found the mystical entrancing. Depictions of her donning the iconic horned crown of Isis in temple reliefs served a dual purpose, elevating her perceived invincibility and reinforcing her sovereign authority against usurpers. Architecture also played a pivotal role. Through monumental projects, Cleopatra sought to immortalise her reign, adding to Alexandria's renown as a cultural fulcrum. Temples and lavish complexes stood not only as symbols of power, but as statements of continuity within Egypt's storied history. These structures bore inscriptions that celebrated her rule, asserted control over resources, and provided employment, thereby enhancing her public image as both a cultural patron and a benevolent ruler. Beyond cementing physical and divine legitimacy, Cleopatra astutely used her kingdom's exoticism as diplomacy. The opulent cultural narrative woven through her court, with its amalgam of Egyptian and Hellenistic influences, enchanted foreign visitors. Descriptions of vibrant ceremonies, innovative marvels like automatic doors, and her captivating self-presentation reached Rome, charming its literati and elite, thus shifting political perceptions by seducing them into reluctant advocates more than conquerors. Central to Cleopatra's strategy was her grip on Egypt's economy, specifically its agricultural bounty. The Nile's fertility under her administration transformed Egypt into the Mediterranean's granary, tying Rome's sustenance to Cleopatra's will. Josephus notes how she leveraged grain supplies in diplomatic negotiations, bolstering her position within the Roman Empire's labyrinthine politics. Her economic policies also reflected an attempt to stabilise Egypt, improve agriculture, and promote fair taxation. Key to this intellectual vision was the Great Library of Alexandria. Cleopatra recognised the library not only as a beacon of learning, but as a vital tool for political leverage. By supporting this collection of ancient knowledge, she amplified Egypt's status as an intellectual epicentre, patronising debates and scientific inquiries that aligned with her goals. Such efforts ensured Alexandria remained a hub of multicultural discourse, magnifying her political reach. Cleopatra's authority extended to naval might, with the Ptolemaic navy demonstrating her foresight in defence and diplomacy. Chroniclers recount Cleopatra's personal oversight of naval manoeuvres, illustrating her comprehensive grasp of maritime strategy. The fleet was more than a protective shield. It was an assertion of Egypt's dominance over vital trade routes, projecting power across the sea and solidifying Alexandria's stature in commerce and conflict. Yet, Cleopatra's legacy, an intricate pattern of political manoeuvring and personal perception, transcends her reign. Despite Rome's ultimate annexation of Egypt, her memory as a cunning leader intertwines with myth. Roman chroniclers etched her into history as both villain and goddess, their fascination with her life evolving into a tale that continues to captivate. Cleopatra's actions, entwined with external judgments and internal narratives, crafted an enduring legend, one where political dexterity and the commerce of imagery create an indelible mark on history's tapestry. The Roman Empire had long coveted Egypt, a land of abundant wealth and undeniable strategic importance. Under Augustus, once Octavian, Rome's hunger for dominion over the Nile's opulence reached a critical point. Cleopatra, the last sovereign of Egypt, perceptive and astute, understood this. Despite her calculated efforts to placate Rome, the political landscape around her was volatile, teeming with betrayal and ambition. Aligning with Mark Antony seemed a gamble for survival against Augustus's ascending power. Yet it inadvertently led Egypt to the brink. Her fate now intertwined with the unfolding Roman civil wars, Cleopatra faced the gathering tempest. Not just a clash of armies, but a collision of empires and an unfolding tragedy. The urgency of her situation pressed Cleopatra into decisive actions, balancing allegiance and the shadow of Roman imperialism. Pressure mounted as Augustus capitalised on her alliance with Antony to further his military aims. Roman propaganda cast Cleopatra not as a legitimate ruler, but a foreign seductress, a threat to Roman virtue and stability. Within Egypt, economic strain deepened unrest. Inflation spiraled as war loomed, and the future grew ominous. At this crucible point, Egypt's fate seemed less the product of its queen's grace and more of Augustus's inexorable will. The Battle of Actium, on September 2nd, 31 BC, became the defining moment of Cleopatra's reign. This naval confrontation wasn't simply a clash of ships, but a turning point sealing Egypt's fate. Cleopatra and Antony's formidable fleet was outmatched by the strategic prowess of Agrippa, leading Augustus's forces. Despite her fleet's resilience, faltering loyalty amongst her ranks, inspired by Augustus's political manoeuvring, led to their downfall. The fog of Actium lifted, revealing devastating losses. For Cleopatra and Antony, once titans of Mediterranean power, defeat marked a sharp pivot from grandeur to vulnerability. Retreating to Alexandria, Cleopatra's hopes dimmed. The military loss at Actium wasn't just a blow to her armed forces, but the harbinger of Egypt's fall. Augustus's victory heralded the end of Ptolemaic rule, setting the stage for Roman annexation. Yet Alexandria, that jewel of culture and intellect, stood defiant as Cleopatra's final refuge. Its walls, fortified against the coming onslaught, reflected the city's unyielding spirit. But beneath its embattled facade lurked desperation, fractures in loyalty among Cleopatra's advisors, bleeding out the last vestiges of hope. Here, forced into a defensive position, Cleopatra's indefatigable resolve was both her strength and her burden. Economic strains and dwindling resources intensified Alexandria's anemic outlook. Cleopatra, recognizing the shrinking options, reached out to Eastern allies, hoping for reprieve. But time had turned traitor. Rome's legions bore down, promising rupture and irrevocable change. With her empire's end imminent, Cleopatra focused on the future of her children, manoeuvring to secure them a place in an altered world. Yet her pleas met Augustus's unyielding resolve. His narrative made Cleopatra a rival, a symbol needing quelling rather than reconciliation. In Egypt's twilight, Antony's demise, driven by tragedy and misunderstanding, compounded the collapse. Believing Cleopatra dead, he took his own life, a script of honour dashed by errors in judgment. His death wasn't merely a lover's lament, but Cleopatra's sombre precursor to the end, a stark reminder of the fragility of power amidst turbulent fortunes. Antony's fall echoed the broader downfall of their shared ambitions, an empire undone by a single-minded adversary steering history's course. Cleopatra, now truly alone, faced the inexorable tide of Rome's ascent. Her end, shrouded in the mystery of myth, became both her final defiance and her ultimate surrender. Cleopatra chose to steer her exit, embracing death by the symbolic bite of an asp, enshrining her legacy in choice, echoing eternity in her tragic exit. Her death, a crafted decision rich with Egyptian symbolism, shielded her from the shackles of Roman captors, ensuring her narrative slipped from Roman control. Until today, its impact weaves through art and history, intertwining with the legends of Egypt's ancient majesty. With Cleopatra's passing, Egypt slipped under Roman shadow, its sovereignty extinguished as it seamlessly became a Roman province. Augustus, ushering Rome's rule, clothed the annexation in promises of stability and prosperity. Yet beneath Rome's veneer of benevolence, Egyptian traditions faced erasure, and its vibrant culture felt the iron grip of Roman administration. The decline of Ptolemaic influence symbolised a broader cultural shift, as Egypt's rich past melded under Roman normalcy. Within this transformation, echoes of Cleopatra's influence lingered, resisting complete dissolution under Rome's far-reaching aegis. Cleopatra's legacy defied time, enduring in cultural memory far beyond her lifetime. Roman poets and chroniclers found in her story a rich vein of narrative, immortalising her in prose and verse with all the complexities that her character entailed. Her allure reached across ages, inspiring writings, dramatisations and reflections well into the modern era. This story of ambition, despair, and fractured imperial dreams draws to a close with Cleopatra. A tale not of mere sovereignty, but of an enduring cultural beacon shining through history's vast expanse. Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, casts a long shadow over history, her influence reverberating through temples, coins, and poetic verses. Her legacy was etched into stone, preserving her image alongside deities, asserting her almost divine status among her people. In Alexandria, the centre of learning and culture, Cleopatra's presence is still felt in the ancient remnants, her grand designs whispered through the ruins. The belief in stones as silent historians echoes here, suggesting that the Queen's story continues to resonate through time. Hieroglyphs and frescoes present her as a powerful figure, wrapped in the luxurious garb of a pharaoh, ensuring her memory withstands the erosion of time. This enduring legacy finds another medium in her silver tetradrachms. Richly adorned, these coins double as currency and powerful propaganda tools, circulating her carefully curated image across realms. Cleopatra's visage, sharp and authoritative, reinforced her divine affiliation and sovereign might, embedding her influence into the everyday commerce of the realm. Each coin, a microcosm of her reign's artistry and deliberate messaging, subtly defied Roman attempts to erase her from history. They depicted her wearing the diadems of a male ruler, a conscious assertion of her capacity and authority. Historians currently examine these coins as windows into the narrative Cleopatra intended to convey, underscoring her tenacious grip on her legacy. The poets of Rome too were entranced by Cleopatra's enigmatic life. Lucan and Ovid, through their verses, magnified her influence on Rome's elite, portraying her as both seductress and sovereign. In Lucan's Pharsalia, moments of grandeur were woven into the fabric of her demise, illustrating Cleopatra's journey in epic terms. Ovid, while balancing on a knife edge of admiration and critique, painted her as a figure of duality, a potent mix of humanity and myth. These accounts reflect Rome's conflicted view of Cleopatra, often painting her in hues that serve political ends as much as artistic ones. Beyond these tales, we find her presence immortalised in Egyptian temples. Their silent stone facades continue to tell the tale of her reign, woven with symbols of divinity and power. Cleopatra was portrayed as a pious leader, deeply intertwined with the deities she championed. Temple reliefs depicting offerings to Isis and Hathor championed her spiritual image, securing her place as both a political leader and a celestial figure. Here within these sacred precincts, Cleopatra remains an icon of divine sovereignty, bridging the seen and unseen, aligning her with the spiritual guardians of Egypt's ancient realm. Modern archaeological pursuits further delve into her story, unearthing artifacts that offer glimpses into her life. Excavations near Alexandria reveal aspects of her regal abode, piecing together fragments of her majestic reign. Jewellery, personal items and scripts found in the soil paint a vivid tableau of Cleopatra's world, highlighting the multicultural milieu of her court. These discoveries illuminate the narrative threads that Cleopatra skillfully wove, blending Greek, Roman and Egyptian influences into a seamless tapestry of power and culture. The thoughtful reconstruction of her life through these unearthed relics illustrates her intent to leave a tangible imprint on history, transforming whispers of legend into vivid relics of reality. Despite the passage of centuries, Cleopatra's enigmatic allure continues to captivate the contemporary imagination. Her life, often translated from chronicles to myth, serves as an enduring muse. Her story has been reinterpreted by playwrights, novelists and filmmakers, each crafting a version that echoes the zeitgeist of their time. From Shakespeare's dramatic portrayals to the bombastic charm of Hollywood productions, each rendition enriches Cleopatra's narrative, ensuring her legacy thrives in the collective psyche. These interpretations maintain thematic fidelity to her life, highlighting power struggles and romantic liaisons which articulate the age-old quest for dominance and legacy. The contrast between Egyptian and Roman recollections of Cleopatra underscores the complexity of her historical footprint. Celebrated as a divine ruler in Egypt, she was often vilified by Roman propaganda, seeking to distort her image. This duality speaks to the profound differences in how nations can view the same figure, one as a national icon, the other as a foreign threat. It reminds us that history is not just tales of the past, but a reflection of those who recount them. Cleopatra's tale is as much about those who recorded it as about her own life, a multifaceted saga of interpretation and meaning. Her story, often reduced to romantic or villainous extremes, finds itself reconsidered through modern sensibilities. Scholars and advocates reassess Cleopatra's legacy, emphasizing her intelligence and strategic foresight. Contemporary perspectives are shedding fresh light on her as a skillful leader navigating a male-dominated world, illustrating her ability to wield influence with grace and acumen. This nuanced approach strips away centuries of bias, revealing a figure of resilience and adaptability, a narrative of complex humanity striving against the currents of history. Cleopatra's enduring image, immortalised in stone and symbol, continues to inspire and challenge artistic endeavours. Iconography of her, straddling the boundaries of legend and reality, serves as a constant reminder of her dynamic role in ancient politics and culture. Her visage, a mélange of Egyptian and Greek artistry, underscores her adeptness at navigating and moulding her era's perceptions. To engage fully with Cleopatra's legend is to embrace its complexity, offering viewers a doorway into a past that is both relatable and perpetually fascinating. Thank you for joining us on this journey through ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed the story of Cleopatra, please like and subscribe for more captivating historical narratives.